right, turning our attention to the other big story that has been simmering and one which really deserves a closer look is are we going to have an impending ban on cryptocurrencies and the backing of a local cryptocurrency, a local private cryptocurrency backed by the state? Now, that's the indication which came in from Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. We know there is already a recommendation with government to ban cryptocurrencies, and it's made quite a few investors in Bitcoin and other popular cryptocurrencies jittery. In the middle of all of this, you have someone like Elon Musk really placing his bets on Bitcoin, saying I will accept payments in Bitcoin in the future, and zooming the price of the cryptocurrency. So where does India stand? Can we really afford to ban cryptocurrencies? Is it time for an Indian-backed cryptocurrency? And that's what we should go ahead. To speak on this, I have the best possible stakeholders and experts on the subject. R Gandhi, former Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India; Akriti Gaur, Independent Policy Advisor and tech lawyer on the show; Sathvik Vishwanath, CEO and co-founder of Unocoin. So welcome to all of you. Mr. Gandhi, let me begin with your take. In 2015, when you were Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, you were one of the very strident voices warning against cryptocurrencies and their possible misuse by criminal elements, in fact. Down the line, with the kind of wave we've seen, especially in the recent past, have you changed your mind, or do you have the same view?
Yeah, thank you. I have not changed my mind because my approach towards virtual currencies remain the same. In the point that, yes, India, as adults, informed citizens, people can deal in such valuable item which they consider as valuable. That part is all right. But to make it as a currency or a medium of payment, I have my own reservations that continue, because for a instrument to be accepted as a normal payment instrument, it has to conform to certain regulations. There has to be a regulatory authority, and by virtual currencies, by definition, abhor an authority. So that is why fundamentally it won't fit in with a standard payment instrument. Yes, as I said, as a valuable item or as an asset, people can always deal in that, buy it, sell it, store it, whatever they want to do with that.
So just a follow-up question, Mr. Gandhi, because now there is talk of a central bank-backed digital currency, or a CBDC as it's called. Do you think there is a case for that then? Is there a requirement for that just to keep up with this trend of cryptocurrencies, that this is something India should be participating in?
Yeah, I do hear about that. Several central banks are examining whether they themselves can issue a virtual currency. The moment, in my opinion, the moment a central bank issues a virtual currency, it is something like a wallet issued by the central bank, or a credit card or debit card issued by the central bank. So once that is there, I do not think any private wallets or private debit cards will be in demand, or people will be wanting to use that. So that's why I'm not very much convinced of central bank issuing a virtual currency.
Akriti Gaur, I'd like you to come in on the kind of laws that we now will have to formulate to regulate cryptocurrencies. Now, there are two things that could happen. India could tomorrow say that we just are banning all external cryptocurrencies, we're going to do our own thing, or we bring in some kind of a law regulating them. Right now, it's in a bit of a gray zone, in a no man's land, where people can trade in them, people can't officially buy things in them, but it's also become a global phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely, Tamanna. I think this gray zone and this whole conversation on regulating cryptocurrency and banning cryptocurrency has been in the works for the past 2 to 3 years. So there's definitely, one can understand what the triggers for regulatory attention and why they really exist. I mean, as Mr. Gandhi also pointed how there is a significant sort of threat to, there's a lot of black market activity. There's a lot of questions and concerns around investor protection. But at the same time, I think in the sort of gradient of regulation, India finds itself today at the extreme end, which is to, put a blanket ban on such cryptocurrencies. And that's something I feel would be a bit of a premature decision which does more harm than good. There's several reasons for this. And, even just talking about one or two, I think a ban of this nature cannot be enforced given the underlying technology, which, is facilitation of anonymous transactions. It's very difficult for the government to enforce and monitor such bans. And at the end of the day, as you mentioned also in the beginning, that, we have legitimate corporations investing in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It's become the buzzword of the day. Crypto exchanges and investors in India are quite bullish, about the crypto trade. And at this point, if a ban of this nature, a legal ban is imposed, my sense is that it will be difficult to implement. And the only thing that's going to come out of it is that this trade will then, go behind into the shadows, leaving, investors and people even more unprotected and precluding the government from, making any such meaningful regulation.
I also want to understand what the argument is for a ban. Are there enough concerns? And let me go back to Mr. Gandhi on this. Do we have enough concerns to, back a full ban on cryptocurrencies? You've talked about not using it to buy things as for trade, but in terms of investment, you're okay with it. Now we're talking about a situation where even buying, selling, storing may be illegal. Is there a case for that, Mr. Gandhi?
There are two things, Tamna. As I mentioned, that one is to make it a medium of exchange or medium of payment. That is different. And another is a store of value. Yes, as a store of value, it can always be permitted in the sense that people consider it valuable. So they want to deal in that, they want to buy it, they want to sell it, they want to make money out of it, or they are ready to face risk out of selling at a discount or whatever. So that is a purely a store of value function. That's an asset function. That perhaps these virtual currencies can still continue to serve. That is one part. But the other part, if it is used as a medium of payment or a medium of exchange, then it means that there has to be, if there is a dispute between the parties, there has to be somebody who takes responsibility for settling that dispute. Can it be done only through Contract Act? Because any economic activity underlying principle is the Contract Act. So whether the Contract Act alone will be sufficient for them to either party to enforce the terms and conditions on the other party, that is where the doubt arises when it is becoming as a medium of exchange or medium of payment. So that is where it has to, by the current the virtual currencies do lack that kind of position, because they by definition do not want any central authority or any authority to be coming in between two parties, the dealing parties. That is a fundamental principle behind the virtual currencies. So that is why it is directly opposite to what is the expectation of a medium of exchange or medium of payment. That's the reason they think there is an argument that they should be banned to be used as a medium of payment or a medium of exchange. But yes, as a medium of store of value, yes, perhaps it can be.
Let me quickly go across to Sathvik Vishwanath of Unocoin, who's with us. Sathvik, I don't have much time left. We had some difficulty connecting you. I just have one simple question for you. Is there a lot of panic right now with regulatory uncertainty facing you?
Yeah, so I think the panic was more between the, say, January 28th to February 1st, during which the notes from the notes was disclosed by the finance ministry about the things that will be taken up for that will be taken up for consideration or getting it on February 1st. This day pretty much the prices stabilized and such. And since then, I have not really seen any kind of panic selling, in fact. And given there is a lot of boost due to say internationally acclaimed Elon Musk and Tesla, buying into Bitcoin and such, it's actually giving better boost. But yeah, we will have to see how it all plays out within India. It's important that the country like India will not lose out on investment, employment, and innovation opportunities. And there is something that we can get from this industry.
Akriti, let me just squeeze in a very quick last response from you on the regulatory framework ahead. Now, the Reserve Bank of India once tried to put a stop to at least the banks entertaining cryptocurrency. That was overturned by the Supreme Court. If there is another attempt to quell it, do you think it will go back to the courts, or once it's legislation, that's the end of the story?
So, as in quickly circling back to the Supreme Court decision, that was a decision which was made on an executive order which was passed by the RBI. Now, if this particular ban, as we see with the proposed bill and the public information about it, is actually, it takes the form of legislative text which is passed by Parliament, then the threshold for testing its constitutionality and viability will be much higher than what the Supreme Court applied for the executive order. So much of the sort of challenges to the bill, if at all, would largely depend on the provisions of the bill when it comes out, but it just remains to be seen if it goes back to the court or not.
All right, we'll leave it at that. And this is a story that we really need to track closely, because there is too much of a gray area. In India and across the world, people are trying to figure out what cryptocurrency is all about, where Bitcoin is going to lead, and is it hot money or is it really the future that we're seeing unfolding here? The verdict is still out. We'll take a very short break, but don't go anywhere. India Revival Mission on the other side.